27. As to Caius Carbo and Tiberius Gracchus, is that 27? Hold on. 5, 6, 7. Yeah. As to Caius Carbo and Tiberius Gracchus, I wish they had been as well inclined to maintain peace and good order in the state as they were qualified to support it by their eloquence. Their glory would then have never been excelled, but the latter, for his turbulent tribuneship, which he entered upon with a heart full of resentment against the great and good on account of the odium he had brought upon himself by the treaty of Numantia, was slain by the hands of the Republic, and the other, being impeached of a seditious affectation of popularity, rescued himself from the severity of the judges by a voluntary death. That both of them were excellent speakers is very plain from the general testimony of their contemporaries, for as to their speeches now extant, though I allow them to be very skillful and judicious, they are certainly defective in elocution. Gracchus had the advantage of being carefully instructed by his mother Cornelia from his very childhood, and his mind was enriched with all the stories of Grecian literature, for he was constantly attended by the ablest masters from Greece, and particularly in his youth by Diophanes of Mitylene, who was the most eloquent Grecian of his age. But though he was a man of uncommon genius, he had but a short time to improve and display it. As to Carbo, his whole life was spent in trials and forensic debates. He is said by very sensible men who heard him, and among others by our friend Lucius Gellius, who lived in his family in the time of his consulship, to have been a sonorous, a fluent, and a spirited speaker, and likewise upon occasion very pathetic, very pathetic, very engaging, and excessively humorous. Gellius used to add that he applied himself very closely to his studies and bestowed much of his time in writing and private declamation. He was therefore esteemed the best pleader of his time, for no sooner had he begun to distinguish himself in the forum, but the depravity of the age gave birth to a number of lawsuits, and it was first found necessary in the time of his youth to settle the form of public trials, which had never been done before. We accordingly find Lucius Piso, then a tribune of the people, was the first to oppose the law against bribery, which he did when Censorinus and Manilius were consuls. This Piso, too, was a professed pleader who moved and opposed a great number of laws. He left some orations behind him, which are now lost, and a book of annals very indifferently written. But in the public trials in which Carbo was concerned, the assistance of an able advocate had become more necessary than ever, in consequence of the law for voting by ballots, which was proposed and carried by Lucius Cassius in the consulship of Lepidus and Mancinus. What is that, 28? I have likewise been often assured by the poet Attis, an intimate friend of his, that your ancestor Decimus Brutus, the son of Marcus, was no inelegant speaker, and that for the time he lived in, he was well versed both in the Greek and Roman literature. He ascribed the same accomplishments of Quintus Maximus, the grandson of Lucius Paulus, and added that a little prior to Maximus the Scipio, by whose instigation, though only in a private capacity, Tiberius Gracchus was assassinated, was not only a man of great ardor in all other respects, but very warm and spirited in his manner of speaking. Publius Lentulus, too, the father of the Senate, had a sufficient share of eloquence for an honest and useful magistrate. About the same time, Lucius Furius Plulus was thought to speak our language as eloquently and more correctly than any other man. Publius Scarvola to be very acute and judicious and rather more fluent than Philus. Manilius to possess almost an equal share of judgment with the latter, and Appius Claudius to be equally fluent but more warm and pathetic. Marcus Fulvius Flaccus and Caius Cato, the nephew of Africanus, were likewise tolerable orators. Some of the writings of Flaccus are still in being, which nothing, however, is to be seen but the mere scholar. Publius Decius was a profound rival of Flaccus. He, too, was not destitute of eloquence, but his style was too bold and his temper was too violent. Marcus Drusus, the son of Claudius, who in his tribuneship baffled his colleagues Gracchus, then raised to the same office a second time, was a nervous speaker, a man of great popularity, and next to him was his brother Caius Drusus. Your kinsman also, my Brutus Marcus Pennius, successfully opposed the tribune Gracchus, who was something younger than himself. For Gracchus was quaestor, and Pennius, the son of that Marcus who was joint consul with Quintus Aelius, was tribune in the consulship of Marcus Lepidus and Lucius Orestes, I think. But after enjoying the aedileship and a prospect of succeeding to the highest honors, he was snatched off by an untimely death. As to Titus Flaminius, whom I myself have seen, I can learn nothing but that he spoke our language with great accuracy. There it is. Okay.